Hi, everybody. I'm Charles Morgan, Coin Week editor, and I'm here on Friday to talk about a really cool auction that I hope you lovers of history will check out. Some very affordable pieces, and I will highlight many of them here in the stream. These are medals struck to commemorate various aspects of World War I. There's also a series of cathedral medals struck in Belgium and several propaganda medals. I guess the World War I medals can be qualified somewhat as propaganda medals, but some of the propaganda medals of very famous German, controversial also, German artist Goetz. So I won't focus too much on the Goetz material. There's one piece at the end that I found absolutely stunning and fascinating. But I will show many of the World War I medals that I really found to be beautiful to show sort of the religious fervor that went into the execution of World War I on the part of the American allies, the French and the British. You see quite a bit of allegory and also the just vast amounts of devastation that was wrought by the war revealed in the art. And many of these medals were struck in bronze. There were some silver medals as well on the offering. And you just see the level of detail in some of these pieces, quite astonishing. This is an affordable auction. Saks Bowers is selling, most of these pieces are scarce but not rare to the point where they are 4 or 5 figure medals. Many of these have current bids in the $100 to $200 range, some even less. So definitely worth checking out if you like historical medals. You want to get a little piece of history. And with that explanation out of the way, let's get started with the first medal that I picked out. This is lot number 30,036, and it is a medal that was made. It's the Meyer 231, and it was from the Richard Jewell collection. This is a medal that shows three French generals facing to the right. And it celebrates the Battle of Marne, which halted the German advance, where Germany was trying to get in France, and the French and the British allied together to stop them, which saved Paris from falling. But it led to the prolonged trench warfare along the Western Front, and that stalemate lasted for pretty much the remainder of the conflict. I like the beautiful sculpt in the obverse is quite nice, but you see the sort of the goddess, that's probably Marianne, I suppose, with her sword in her hand, flying above the soldiers, in defense of their homeland. It's really quite attractive piece. And again, a current bid on this medal is $170. Moving on to this piece, 30,038. This is the Battle of Yser, bronze medal that was made in 1914. And you see this nude goddess on the obverse. And the piece sort of is from the art, shows the art of devastation. You see the sword has been battle worn, and the nude female holding that dagger, and the defeated soldiers on the reverse are marching left with refugees displaced by the war. And this is, like I said, it's a very moving design. It's a really nice piece and nice relief, again, from Richard Jewell collection. This one's currently 50% over the high bid pre-sale estimate. It's at $300. Moving on to the next piece we have here. This is, if you like American motifs, this is a very interesting piece. This is a medal that marks the sinking of the Lusitania. It was torpedoed, 10, 11 miles off the coast of Ireland, and over half the passengers on the ship were Americans. This was an absolute outrage, of course, at the time. The naval rules of engagement, the gentleman cruiser rules, I suppose, where merchant vessels and civilian vessels were supposed to not be targeted by the warring factions. The warring factions are basically being sneaky, breaking these rules in order to get advantage. And as a result, Germany felt like it had free reign to do what it needed to do to control the North Sea. And so this medal is shows the outrage from the American side. You see that baby drowning in the water. You see the ship sinking. You see the Statue of Liberty rising from the waves with her sword held aloft. You know, the Statue of Liberty usually holds a lantern, but now it's time for her to wield the sword of justice. On the German side, the Germans actually issued their own Lusitania medals where they celebrated the sinking of the ship. There's a very interesting examples of that at the Mariners Museum, Christopher Newport University here in Virginia. I've taken my family to a few times, but this is just really striking. And I usually am not a huge fan of the Statue of Liberty as an artistic motif on a medal, but this is about the best use of her I've ever seen. Moving on, this is a plaque medal. This features a quote from the famous writer Victor Hugo. This is the quote is translated into English from French. It basically speaks to a letter to a woman, and the "Que cela c'est la nuit" is what is it? It's night, and what will be the end? Dawn. We are suffering, but with certainty. And he goes on in the poem to say, Prussia is the dungeon, and Paris the latitude. Courage, we will redo the efforts of the old days, and before a month in Paris we will drive out the Prussians. So the great minds, the great literary figures of the time, of course, living through a frightening and very uncertain period. And this is a great artistic representation. You see the Cathedral of Notre Dame in flames. You see the angels flying over, looking over the soldier, basically being cast out with death and destruction at his feet. And then on the other side, you see the Paris sort of reborn with the goddess and the glory of sun rays over top, and the liberty, equality, and fraternity once again championing the French people. Moving on to lot 30,043. I don't know, it's a tongue twister for me to say those big numbers. This is a great silver bronze medal from France and Germany, Great Britain, the Battle of the Somme. This was made probably around 1975, according to Sachs Bowers Auction Catalogers, again from the Richard Jewell collection. And it's a very affordable piece, current bid of $45. So this sort of is an Art Nouveau look at it. And this talks about, shows the warriors. These are the French and the Belgian warriors. You see their shields, the rooster and the lion. And they're holding their spears and shields. And the river god, representing the Somme River, is reclining to the left. Of course, very easy for the gods to recline. They don't have to fight the wars, right? And the reverse is just a plain inscription, collection, Premier Guerre Mondiale, 1914 to 1918. Moving on, another plaque medal, one I find very curious and interesting. This is lot 30044. This is by engraver Georges-Henri Prudhomme, measures 63 by 47, and it features a nude male soldier, and he is holding a sword, which is wrapped in a banner. The rays are emanating from the back, and they read Verdun. And on the reverse, you have the busted head of Marianne, and of course Verdun being just a completely horrible battle in the war, one that really set the stage for a lot of the atrocities that happened in the war and led to some of the great poems. Carl Sandburg comes to mind in his great poem Grass. So anyway, this is just a real fascinating piece, and I think the current bid is, let's see where are we at on that one. The current bid is $100 against an estimate of $60 to $100. Moving on to another American motif, we have this medal, 30045. This is a United States soldier, with Jesus in the back. Of course, Jesus was a great pacifist, but this soldier has his bayonet in the mouth of a dragon. And this Uniface medal struck around 1917 at the Balfour Mint. This is another part of their Art of Devastation series. It's a 59 millimeter medal attributed to G. Peterson. This is a very scarce issue. Current bid is $200. It's a $200 pre-sale estimate, but it's very interesting, evocative image. Certainly very American portrait. Moving on to another American motif from the series and the collection of Richard Jewell. This is a World War I medal that shows General Pershing and his visit to the front lines. This is a medal from the famous engraver Charles Palais, who measures 68 millimeters. And you see there General Pershing and his staff with Colonel Stanton. They're visiting the front lines with French generals Pétain, Foch, and Clemenceau. The reverse features a French cockerel standing, and he's a little off to the left. And you have the inscription there. And Pershing, of course, he made his name fighting Pancho Villa, but he promised 100% support for the French in the war and led to the increasing American role in the war, which helped turn the tide and bring it to a close. And there's a great quote on the back there. And of course, we know Pershing now for the tank that was named after him. Speaking of tanks, this piece is fantastic. You see a World War I tank cresting a hill in the trenches with the goddess above with a sword in her hand. And this is just a phenomenal relic of the time. 1918 was when this was issued from the Paris Mint from the Art of Devastation series. The medal is attributed to Pierre Alexandre Malon, and it's seldom encountered in numismatics, this type of tank. So this is your chance to get a copy of it. Stax Bowers had a pre-sale estimate of $75 to $150, but believe it or not, this thing is already over $340, and it's pretty obvious to me why people would have such an interest in that. Moving on, another American motif, and again, the Statue of Liberty returns. This is lot 30050. This is a medal by Edouard Frécy, 68 millimeters. This is the Battle of Saint Mihiel, and this was an important battle in the end of World War I, where General John J. Pershing commanded 500,000 troops against the Germans and the Austrians. And there's a huge number of casualties in this fighting, and you can see just with the image there, the trench warfare and men hitting other men with rifle butts and just absolute carnage. So this is commemorated with this medal. Current bid on this piece is only $110, so it's still very affordable, attractive opportunity. Moving on, here's the Getz medal I pulled aside. There are quite a few really interesting Getz medals, don't get me wrong. Definitely check it out if you collect that engraver. This is one that shows the sinking of U-41, which the Germans considered murder. U-41 actually was sunk 2 times. This vessel in 1915, and then in 1939 during World War II, another U-41 was sunk. Both were submarines that took out quite a lot of ships before they were destroyed. The reason why the Germans were so outraged is that the British were flying a false flag on a merchant ship, pretending to be a merchant ship, an American merchant ship, which was at the time a neutral power. What was happening is that, based on the rules of engagement, the Germans would approach neutral ships and merchant ships and search them for contraband. If contraband was found on the ship, the crew was sent on their lifeboats and the submarine would sink it. If nothing was amiss, the Germans would let them go. And this specific incident on 24th of September, this is after a campaign of 2 or 3 days where the German U-boat was sinking ship after ship after ship. The British, pretending to be the Americans, saw the Germans intercept another merchant ship and decided to fire upon it, and they sank it. And then you can see the hand rising from the water, the clenched fist of rage from the German side about the duplicity of the British mariners. And then on the back, you see the British with the American flag being flown, shooting their cannons at the Germans. Basically, the sailor in there going, "Help me out, dude!" And then the British are like, GGs and teabagging them. I guess would be the modern equivalent of what that represents in medallic form. But anyway, this is just a fantastic medal. Something that I think reflects on the sentiment on the German side of the equation. Of course, they are ultimately the losers of the war, and the sort of the antagonism they felt in losing that war puts Europe in a very bad place only a few decades later. What a great collection Jewel put together. These are just goes to show you don't have to be a multimillionaire to put together a numismatic collection of great depth, variety, and interest. And I do hope that you lovers of history take the opportunity to log into Stax Bowers and register a few bids. Pick up a few of these things that you'll spend such an incredible amount of research and time putting together, and add these great pieces of history to your collection. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend. I got a meeting to go to in about 15 minutes with the Numismatic Literary Guild, so I have to cut it a little short today. But I think things are rolling along. I've talked to quite a few coin dealers about where the market is, and it's mixed messages. People with internet sale capacity and lots of customers are doing fine, which means that the coin market and coin prices are doing well. All things considered, I think that's a good place to be. I have a podcast for you for Monday. We'll star Russ Augustine, and then later in the week I will put up another podcast with Rob Oberth, who's a newly appointed ANA governor after the resignation of Paul Montgomery. Oberth, of course, is the founder of Coin Dealers Helping Coin Dealers, which is a wholesale trading network on Facebook. He's got quite a bit of buzz over that, but he's part of that new generation of coin dealers that understands the internet a little bit better than the preceding generations, and I think he has ideas about how to more modernize the hobby. So anyway, we're going to talk to him. We're going to talk to him about what brick and mortar business is like right now, bullion business, and also what he's going to do with the Great American Coin Hunt. Of course, he ran that last year. So anyway, that's what we got in tap for you for next week. Of course, I'm going to pay close attention to this auction. Might even put a few bids in myself if my wife lets me, and we'll see how it goes. So anyway, for Coin Week, I'm Charles Morgan. I'll see you next time. Happy collecting. Okay, guys, we're good.